Okay, so I'm back. The next video I really wanted to make was how I came to Wicca. I've seen a couple of videos like this on YouTube from maybe 4 or 5 people that have actually watched them. There are others with like the same title that I haven't watched yet, but I might at some point in the future. My favorite thing in all of them is how every single one that I've watched, people have said the exact words that when they found Wicca, they felt like they were coming home. And it's very true, and especially for me. So, before I found Wicca, I was raised in a Methodist church with my mom and my dad. We went there every Sunday. I went to youth group every Wednesday night. I was in what our church had, this Pioneer program. I don't know exactly what it is now, but then it was basically like the Boy Scouts of Christianity, I guess. I don't know. It was a lot of fun. I loved the people at our church. I loved the atmosphere of just being somewhere where no one really argued. There were no fights. There was no questioning at my church. At least not when I was really little and I didn't know what was going on. And it was just the best place in the world when I was little was my Methodist church. Everyone was friends. The people there didn't treat me like a little kid all the time, even though I really was still a little kid. I was like 7 or 8. And not long after that, my parents, they are my adopted parents. I was adopted when I was like almost a year old. I was 11 months when I was adopted. My adopted parents, when I was a little after, I don't really know how old I was, probably 11, they started to have all kinds of fights, and not long after that they got divorced. And during this time I really started to question Christianity in general. I don't think me questioning it had really any direct link to the divorce or anything like that. It just kind of all happened at once. So at that point I realized, after the divorce and all that, that going to church really wasn't for me anymore. It wasn't that I didn't still feel that family atmosphere there as I had before, but I did. It was that I couldn't force myself to believe what they were telling me. I never really believed exactly what they were telling me. I'd always had my personal doubts, but I never wanted to mess up what we had at that church by expressing them. And then soon after, we stopped going because of the divorce, and me and my mom moved further away from the church, so we didn't want to make the drive every Sunday to go. And while we were living in our little apartment all by ourselves, we didn't go to church at all, and I didn't really have a problem with it, and I don't know if my mom did, but my mom still considers herself a Christian, and I don't have a problem with that. And I'm not saying she doesn't have a problem with me being a Wiccan or anything other than a Christian, because she does. She's just not as outward about it as I wish she would be. So anyway, after the divorce and our moving into the apartment and us stopping going to church, I felt like, I guess, a gap in my spirituality, and I really wanted something to fill it. And one day I went online and I was like, I'm gonna find something. There has to be something here. Everything is here, whether it's the most accurate things or not. There's something here that is right for me. And I found nothing that day. So I gave up for a while, and I was like, I don't know. So for about a year, I guess I considered myself an atheist. I didn't really believe in anything. There was nothing that I could say that I truly believed in, so it's just like, I don't believe in anything. And that really made my dad mad. He was freaking out for a while and was like, there's something you believe in, there has to be. And I was like, yeah, I know there is, but I just don't know what. So for a while, my dad and I had this really rocky relationship, and it was even worse that I only got to see him like 6 times a year. It's not like it's court mandated or anything since the divorce. I can see him whenever I want. It's just with our schedules not working together, I only got to see him like 6 times a year. I still only get to see him maybe 6 times a year, sometimes less. Like, I think I've seen him 4 times this year. The next time I get to see him will probably be Christmas for them, so I mean, there's nothing I can do about it, and I'm not really gonna complain. I can't really complain. I don't make too much of an effort to see them myself. But anyway, after my little atheism period, I went to looking again, and still really didn't find anything for a while, but during my atheism period and all that, my mom found her new boyfriend at the time. They've gotten married since then, but when we moved in with him, it was like I had a house again. I had sort of a family. My mom wasn't so, I don't know how she really was exactly when she wasn't with my dad, and we lived in the apartment, and it just wasn't a great time in either of our lives. But when we moved in with her boyfriend, it was great. He treated her good, he treated me good, he treated me and her like we were already part of the family, and we just moved in, and it was amazing. And I stopped looking again for a little while, and then soon after we went to this used bookstore in Williamsburg, Virginia. I went there just because I had some old books that I needed to get rid of. I had nowhere to put them, and going to that store maybe wasn't the best idea to get rid of books that I didn't have anywhere to put them, because I ended up getting more books when I sold them my books, because they give you store credit, and it was a vicious cycle. It still is. I still go there. But I turned in some of my old books, and I found Living Wicca by Scott Cunningham. Yes, that book's actually a sequel to another book, but it didn't matter to me at the time, and it still doesn't really matter that that's the first book I read. Some people will like scream at me and be like, how could you start with the sequel? And other people will scream at me and be like, that's not exactly a beginning Wicca book, and I'll be like, I don't care. That book, I don't know, as soon as I read that book, I was just like, this is where I want to be, this is where I need to be. So I found more books and more books and more books, and I'm not exactly sure how big my collection of Wicca books is now, but it's pretty big, so I'll probably do a video about that, just so that I myself know, and just to kind of show off kind of my Wicca library. So since the founding of my personal practice, a lot's changed. Both of my adoptive parents have gotten remarried, actually within 3 months of each other. It was a really, really busy time, as I was either a bridesmaid or the maid of honor in both. It was crazy. It's been great. Honestly, I can't complain, because things have gone wrong and things have been bad, but I've always had something to fall back on that I truly believe in, which is my religion. And when I was going to the Methodist church, and when I wasn't going to church anymore, and when I was an atheist, and I had nothing to fall back on, so hard times just seemed harder, I guess. And I have to thank everyone that's been in my life and led me to this path. I definitely have to thank the used bookstore. Like I said, I still go there. I've gotten 3 or 4 more books from there. I get books from Amazon. I get books from everywhere. But it was great. It still is great, at least for me. And I know for everyone it won't be, but for me, Wicca is my home. And there are people that will laugh at me and say there's no such thing as religion being a home, and then I'll just wave it off and be like, maybe not for you, but for me it is. So, that's my way of coming to Wicca. I came to Wicca through the founding of a book, and I guess through the product of misfortunes in my life, it led me to my home. And I thank the God and Goddess for that every single day. So, again, I guess bless be and much love to everyone. have a great journey to your own personal destiny, as I've had a great journey to mine.